Well, let's go to start with the basic anatomy. We want to make an introduction to the human body from the anatomical point of view, and in special way, we will talk about muscles, joints, and main bone structures. We could say that in the human body there are 650 muscles, 206 bones. By the way, recently we understood that fascia, which is the connective tissues that hold together all those structures, actually it's an organ. This is a revolution into the anatomy because before we used to say fascia just separate stuff, structures. Now the revolution is fascia actually put together, ensemble those structures. Looks the same, but it's totally opposite. It's the difference. So now we can say there is just one big muscle, which is the human body, the whole structure, the whole complex anatomy, and there is fascia, which create different room, different environment for each muscle. So also the idea that one muscle just make one movement and this kind of localizationism is actually dead. So for example, we will see internal rotation is made by gluteus medium. But actually when the leg is into internal rotation, the same muscle, the medium gluteus or gluteus medium, actually also works for the external rotation. So truly depends on the angle of the joints to understand which muscles is working on which part. So the idea is, yes, the body is complex. There are many muscles working in these beautiful shapes. And we don't have to forget that is the body studying the body. So as soon as we can focus with our brain on all those structures and we can label all those structures and we can explain verbally what that structure can do, as soon as we get this information, this knowledge, we have to jump out from our chair and we have to start to move, to do self-massage, to understand, in order to understand, to really integrate this knowledge. Because it's the body studying the body. It's not the brain studying the body. The brain is just one important organ, but it's just one part. There is psychology in each cells, in each membrane, in each microtubule, in each molecule. There is an intelligence. So the memory actually flows into the water, into the fascia. That's why it's not just a suggestion, but actually it's direction that I want to give to my students. As soon as you understand logically the anatomy, the muscle, as soon as you can recognize those structures, please stand up from your chair and go to run, go to do yoga and go to dance and go to do self-massage and move your body and try to drive into this new understanding of the body. The body is studying the body. So this is just to fill our brain and our eyes. So I will share some images. I will show the anatomy thanks to this beautiful program where we can put, add, separate structure of the body. And I want to focus only on the locomotion aspects, only on the muscles, joints, bones. And when we say muscles, we have to understand that muscles includes tendons as well. God just take two sticky, which are bones, sewed together with like bands called ligament. And one time that he had the joints with two bones, he could attach the muscles with the tendon, by the tendon, and all around fascia. So now we have to understand that in all those structures except the bone, we have like contractile cells in fascia, sometimes also in ligaments and in muscle, of course, and small amount also in tendons. So every time that you have a reaction, an emotion sometimes, and actually all entire life, even if you are sleeping, always there are some contraction in our body. Those contractions are made by muscles, which can be the normal muscle that we already know, or also the organ muscles which are a bit more stretched in this way. And we can say that contraction is a kind of life. It's the heart is pumping the blood, the lungs, the diaphragm, the intestine. So we always are contracting. Actually, there is this kind of movement, which is the base of movement, which is the pulsion and expansion, is retraction and expansion, which is the life movement. So from this idea of we can understand how the rest of movements are created. There are some people that say there is just one movement, actually, there is just internal rotation. Everything in life is made by internal rotation, where external rotation is a result. I mean, an apple comes from internal rotation, from the seeds, which is opening up, is blowing up. We come from an internal rotation where finally went out. So flexion, extension, side bending, rotation are all kinds of consequence of internal rotation. We will see mostly joints are rounded because in reality, there is just a circle, a sphere, a round, and all the structure that we can see from our limitation, they take perspective or 3D because we are limited. And we have to understand that from our brain, we need to see the reality in 3D so we can figure out the idea of reality. But it's our own limitation. And 3D because the triangle is the base element to understand, to contain, and to respect the idea of circle. That's why in geometry, the circle is the first shape, then the triangle is the second one, and then from those two, we can create all the world. So this is like a small introduction philosophically with a modern point of view about anatomy. So let's go now with a bit more traditional, and let's understand the human body from this point of view. So here we have a female body, and here I want to share some information. So to make it simple, because this is just an introduction, I want to let you understand the human body from really modern perspective. So let's say that there is one vertical line, as we can understand, is made by the column, the verticality. So God put us two horizontal lines after the vertical line in order to compensate the expression, because some bacteria where we come from, but actually also snakes and reptile, just with the vertical line, they work really well. Now we are humans, so we need to express, to socialize, to move from one point to the other, to run. So the pelvic girdle here and the scapular girdle here are the two horizontal plane where we can attach 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 spheres. So from the vertical line, 2 horizontal lines, and now we have 4 rounding, 4 points, 4 spheres, 4 circles, where we can now add one really large bone after another circling. We can add another large bone, and then here we have 5 lines. Actually, here we have 2 bones. And actually, when we will see the foot, it will have 3 bones, then 4 bones, then 5 bones. Actually, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is really magical for the sacred geometry of the human body. Here as well, we have 1, we have 2, and in carpalis bones, we have actually a line of 3 and 4 and 5. And in the middle, so here as well, 1, 2, blah, 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 and here as well. So in the middle, behind, we have a scapula, which is a triangle bone on the back, and here, pelvic bone, which also are kind of triangle shape. And in the middle, we have from the back part, the sacrum, lumbar spine, thoracic spine, cervical spine, and head, which is another circle. Okay? So as you can see, without knowing anatomy, we can just play and draw a normal human body just made by lines from a logical point of view. So there is a verticality, then 2 horizontal plane, 2 horizontal plane to compensate the idea of counter movement. So rounding, because we need to move in all direction to express ourselves. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here as well, we have sacrum, lumbar, thoracic, cervical, and occiput. So there are 5 curves. And here on the face, we have a round and also another beautiful sacred geometry, which comes from the numerology. In our skull, in our face, and also in our feet and hands, it's funny because we have 28 bones, 28. It's actually like a moon phase. It's in a kind of the adaptation area in our body. So it's 4 times 7, which also is sacred number. But yeah, without going too much into philosophy, let's try to appreciate this kind of sacred geometry and keep going on our own limitation, which is made by culture. So respect the ancient tradition. Let's go to study this human body from layers. So we can talk the skin. The skin is a kind of 3 layers. There is dermis, epidermis, and hypodermis, which is made basically from rest of dead cell. Actually, it's funny because when you see the body here, you can see just the dead cell, except on the eyes. All the rest is like excretion of the inner, the body, which is inside. So that's why it's very important also to treat the skin, like scrubbing, these kind of therapies. And also keep hydrating the skin because it's part of the nervous system and it's very important. Without the skin, we can start to understand that we are all the same matters. Because when we take out our skin, we observe an unconsciousness world. So, first point of view, you can see red and white, that's clear. So just to help you to dialogue and to have a good relation with the anatomy, make it really simple. Red is a kind of really hard color, passionate color. Yeah, red is sex, red is fear, red is fight, red is blood. So red part of the muscles are the muscles more active, are the muscles more strong, are the muscles more, when I say strong in the meaning of doing stuff, they are not afraid, they go really with impulsivity, like they go like we can say silly. Let's say silly in the meaning of well-meaning, silly in the meaning of they do not take care sometimes. Are just like the first soldiers, you know, like especially the external part. So to understand this point, the biggest muscle that we have on the superficial plane, you will see all those, are kind of muscles made for easy movement and strongest movement. The white part, white is kind of delicate color, is pure color, is the inner child color is white. Yeah. So we can understand that this part are more like refined part, are more delicate part. Actually, those are mostly tendon and aponeurotic fascias and specific structure for the movement. So we can understand that if I need to lift up my grocery coming from the supermarket, I will lift up from the floor with those red and big muscles. But in the way that I'm walking to my home, and I don't need to make big effort. I just need to sustain, to hold on those back. So the rest of the work will be made by the white part of the muscles, mostly tendons, but also actually also white fibers, which actually are going along the ventricle part of the muscle. Yeah. So first difference, white and red. The red are red and the white is white. Yeah. Red, devil reds, and white, Snow White. Yeah, like it's clear the difference. We don't need to know anatomy, just be easy. So also an important point is that those very strong muscles from the external layers are totally different from those internal muscles. You see? Here the muscles are much more thin, are smaller, shorter, and with this kind of geometry, which is a bit more complex. So before to go there, the approach is keeping on the very easy way. So biggest superficial muscles are the one that need to make a big effort. We use them in the most common movements. But the inner muscles are the one that need to calibrate the movement, are the one of the perception, are the one of the very precise movement. Actually, those muscles, we really need to train those muscles. We really need to make like body consciousness movement, like yoga, like Pilates, like dancing, like just movements. So in this point, I really need to stop the sharing and to stop sharing and to talk with you. Let's make an example of what we just saw, right? If you are sitting on the chair or on the floor, stand up, and stand up in very laziest way. So stand up like, oh, you're really tired and you want to stand up using the superficial muscles. So this way, really lazy movement, yeah? I delete this one. Yeah, because I feel an artist, so I keep watching my. So now let's stand up from the chair. We try to target the movement to those small inner muscles. Let's try that the movement starts from those inner muscles. So first, just try to concentrate yourself, maybe close your eyes, maybe start to breathe deeply. And one time that you are breathing deeply, start to connect your diaphragm, your inner belly with psoas, with those belly inner muscles. And now start to understand that in the same time that you are growing from your head, you are pushing with both feet on the floor. So you want to grow and expanding yourself from the center. So you concentrate in the middle of your belly, you project an intention to grow from the head and to push the heart with your feet. Let's go. 1, 2, and 3. So the idea is to train those small muscles in order to save energy and use the, let's say, the inner movement energy, which is like a kind of flowing. So it's a kind of train, like a Feldenkrais, like different kind of specialities of movement that are teaching us that some small muscle exist in our body. We need to train them in order to develop better skills with bigger muscles. So again, a big movement comes from small movements. So if we, as a chain, we can put together small movement, we can express a beautiful bigger movement. So everything comes from inside to outside. We need to train those small muscles to express the biggest movement with the biggest muscles. So again, I will share my screen and let's go here again. And let's start to introduce ourselves on those muscles. But firstly, I need to share this one. Again, here we have vertical line, the horizontal plane, and 3 segments. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go into details. This is scapula, which is triangle in all aspects. So scapula divides the spine into 2 segments, actually. You can say here there's one kind of back and here there's another one, okay? In this part, we have a kind of one triangle with different actually torsion and different body movement in this part, because it's a kind of resting on sacrum. In this other triangle, the rest of movement are held by the head. That's why here we have a kind of important muscles, which is trapezium. The same muscle comes here until the point where the spine starts to curve from inside. And in this other triangle, here we have another important muscles, which is latissimus dorsis. And basically, the superficial part of our back is made by those 2 muscles. Always, I'm trying to do it very simple, and sorry if sometimes I need to skip some muscles, okay? It's just an introduction. So as you can see, trapezius and latissimus dorsis. Those two muscles are the one are protecting the back part. And scapulas are in the middle of those two kind of geometry, which we can find the fourth thoracic vertebra, which is a center of torsion. Every time that you are walking, you are dancing, you are twisting yourself, and this part of your column, there is a transmission of energy from right to left, from bottom to top, and vice versa. There are different center of torsion, also D12 and another center of torsion. We will see in the details later on. So scapula again is a triangle in all aspects, and this is a kind of special knowledge that for me was a revelation. This part of the scapula is actually the point that we can touch. If you touch on your back and you try to reach the scapula, you will see the spine, this part of the scapula, okay? And if you can follow and go forward in frontal and external part, you can reach this part. And actually you can touch the joint between clavicula and scapula. So clavicula will close our griddle until the sternum. And here we have a kind of section that actually is holding like actually it's a sacred geometry, right? It's holding our arms, all this structure from the just skeleton part, okay? Because there are muscle chain and fascia which are supporting our arms. So this belt, which is closing around our first and second ribs, those are our ribs. So this circling, this elliptical belt is holding all the arms. Actually, the arms are really heavy if you want to talk about. So how is possible that all those arms are just hindered by actually just one bone joint, which is this one, which is attached to the scapula. But as you can see, the scapula is not attached to any other bones because it's not attached to the ribs. And actually scapula is only attached to the clavicula. See? So again, all this big arm is attached to scapula, which is attached just to the clavicula, which is a kind of really small bone. So how is possible that all this big arm is supported just by this clavicula? That's why it's important to understand the connective tissues, which is a kind of complex net that is supporting and holding together all these kind of structure. That's why, again, I saw in the first part of this class, let's remember that all the body is made by fascia. This is just one muscle in one body. Yeah. So again, let's going on. If you need to put pause on this video, please feel free. So again, here there is humerus. Here there is ulna and radius. And here we have three bones. And again 4 bonds and 5 bonds, yeah, to make it simple. It's important because if you are a therapist, you know that there are different kind of injury and are different kind of motion into the first articulation, the first line of joints, the second line of joints, and the third line of joints. Okay, if you are not therapist and just are like normal human being, you can play to understand how it's possible to move just the first layer, the second layer, and then the third layer. Okay, we'll see the same on the foot. I skipped the words of those joints. Just remember that all this area is called like metacarpalis. Carpalis is in Latin. Capitate, I think, is in English. All those are the carpalis, and all those are metacarpalis. Yeah, on the foot will be the same. Metatarsus and tarsus, just to make a difference between layers. So external layer, metacarpalis. The central one, carpalis. And it's interesting to understand that all those are just in this part of the hand. We have 8 bones here in very small area. Yeah, to understand that all these carpalis, they reach the root of the hand here in this part. So again, when you do self-massage, you will find this kind of point. If you have the self-massage book attached, then exist, you will find this kind of point here and here and here and here and here as well. And actually are kind of point that they cover their own identity because they're into the fascia between those bones, because between those bones are many layers. Yeah, so we will work on this kind of fascia which are covering the space between bones. So this is scapula griddle with clavicula, sternum, and arms. And we see the same more or less on the other part of the vertical line. So on top we have this part which is much more on the expression, and the bottom we have this part which is also a kind of scapula. As you can see, this is a triangle. Is of course another evolution from the embryology, but we can find many similarities. Again, there is actually all the pelvic bones, which is made by ilium, pubis, and ischium. Is made like two triangles twisting on themselves. You see, tack, tack. Upper part is the same. Tack, tack. Frontal part is the same. Tack, tack. Internal part. And in the central point where they are twisted together, actually in this part, in this area, on this line that actually is the line where the two bones are twisting on themselves, on this point is the hip joint. So God put the hip joint just in the transition of force energy on this part, because you have to understand that from a vertical line to two horizontal lines, we have this kind of energy. One is going here and splitting the energy there and here. Here the same. When the impact of each steps reach the hip from the foot, from the feet, reach the hip, so the energy of the impact split into two directions. One in symphysis, pubic symphysis, and the other one in the sacroiliac joints. Okay. By the way, also the weight of our spine, of all the body, is resting on the sacrum, and from those 2 points, as you can see, is spreading the force in this area and also here. Tack, and it's going that way. That's why the complexity of bones is made like this one, because take in mind, let's remember that the bones are shaped by the movement, it's not the opposite way. So before to do so strong structure, the bones were much more like cartilage. And when we were kids, when we were baby, actually, before to be baby, we were water. So it's the water shaping the bone. So the movement is giving the form to the water, and the water is shaping the bone. So when we see the bone, we can understand how it moves. Yeah. And in this kind of in this part of the body, we see that these energy are like curves, like spinal waves. Actually, we are made by waves, you see, and those waves are rails of our movement. So again, from this triangle, which is like a kind of bridge to the vertical line, to the horizontal line, it's a kind of bridge, those two triangles here made by iliac's joint, and here made by scapular and clavicular joint. Again, here we have femur, here we have tibia and fibula. And again, here we have 1, 2, and 3 main joints of our ankles, which they skip the energy to 1, 2, 3, 4 joints, and again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 joints. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, very easy to remember. This is calcaneus, astragalus, navicular, and then cuboides, cuboids, bones, and then cuneiform. If you want to know the name, here is very complex anatomy. By the way, is beautiful from my point of view to understand the mechanic behind all these complex shapes. You see, it's funny to understand that those 28 bones are actually since century closed into a shoes. Yeah, on straight. So maybe our real bones are not shaped like this one. Maybe there is some adaptation due to the evolution, but by the way, this should be the normal foot, the perfect foot, which actually doesn't exist. So the difference between arms, that arms are made like this one because arms are the expression, arms are the art, arms represent the psychology of our body made to expression, to the gesture, to the beautiful things of our life. Legs are much more vertical psychology. Legs are made by necessities, by things that we have to do. Legs are made to go to the work, to go to the bathroom, to go to sleep, to go to the family. That's it. Arms are made to draw, to touch music, to push, to fight, to hug. It's another kind of psychology. And the important things that I want to explain now, that arms are free. I mean, the ends are free. So these joints is free to transmit for the transmission of the force. Here we have the earth, the floor, which is contrasting. So we have the weight of our body, the gravity, and here we have the floor. And every time that we work, we are pushing up the structures. For the arms, we don't have these kind of problems, except for those of people that used to do handstand 4 or 5 times per day. Here we have a very important transmission, force transmission. So on the frontal part of the right foot, here we have tibia and fibula. As you can see, the tibia is a bit upper to the fibula. So if the tibia stops here, the fibula stops here. This is important to understand that exterior part of our body is related to the direction of the life. The inner part is related where we are. So the psychology of the body is made by external part, the direction where we are going. The inner part, the medium part, is made by where we are. Yeah, it's like kind of, you can say like the present and the future. So in a mechanical way, to walk and to choose the direction is the fibula pushing from this part, the ankle. So it's pushing the ankle into inner part or outside part or every direction. Of course, it's always a complex movement made by all the bones, all the fascia, but we can understand the fibula as the direction joint. And the tibia as the maintaining joints and is passing the information from the bottom to the top. Let's say the fibula is giving the information from the top to the bottom. Yeah, it's a biomechanical point of view, but by the way, also the Chinese meridians, they used to flow in this order. It's not a coincidence. And here we have very important joint, astragalus, which is very complex joint. And the beautiful thing is trying to shape the triangularity. You see? You understand why I truly believe that there is just one sphere and triangle is our limitation. So the information from the top goes in this way and in that way. And from the back, this way. So the transmission of the weight of the body is in 3 directions. Forward, in the middle way, and in the lateral way. I mean, from the, into the to the center and to the lateral part. And backward is just back. As grooves, for example, or birds, or more simple body structures, we can understand that there is 1, 2, and 3 way to walk, to distribute to distribute the weight during the walk. Yes, of course, we can go there, or we can go there. Of course, we can go there. I know, but the simple mechanically is made in this way: 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. And actually, there are many exercises that we can practice understanding how to walk. So astragalus receives the weight from the top and distributes to the calcaneus, the back part, to the navicular bone, to the middle part, and to the cuboid bone, to the lateral part. So in that way, we can understand there are 2 kinds of foot, we can say. There is this foot and there is the other foot. This is much more to hold the weight and also the direction. And this is much more to propulsion, to push forward. Yeah. Those are phalanges and those are tarsus, metatarsus with phalanges, and those are tarsus. And yeah, that's it for the moment. Here the joints of the knee with the patella is a bone floating into the muscles to protect the knee joint. And now we can go to the rib cage and to the vertical spine. Okay. The rib cage, we have 12 ribs, and actually we have to see the rib cage in this way, because actually it's like a very close and complex area of our body, and we can add the diaphragm, and also here on the top will be closed by respiratory system. So actually it's hermetic cavity, and inside there is the heart, as you can know. After the rib cage, we should talk about the spine. So all the spine is very special group of joints. Let's do like this way. So I want just to select the spine. Okay. And here Okay. Okay, so now here we are. So the spine is made by sacrum, which is this bone, 5 lumbar vertebrae, 12 thoracic vertebra, and 7 cervical vertebra. Let's remember that 12 thoracics are the primary curve. The sacrum and thoracic is syphosis curve, is closing the space. So this is the first curve. When we were embryon, we had just this curve. After this curve, the cervical curve is developed in order to see the light. And the third curve, the lumbar curve, is developed around 1 year, when we were between 1 and 2 years, when we start to walk. So we can appreciate some difference. The lateral process, which is this one, is very big on the fifth. The fourth is normal. The third is the balance vertebra, because it's just in the middle. It's just on the back of our belly button. Actually, it's facing the horizon. So this is the like equilibrium vertebra, and it has really long lateral process until the first lumbar vertebra, and the D12 is actually without lateral process. This is very important to understand, because here is the center of torsion of the spine. Okay, not all the body, because all the body again is D4, but just of the spine, the center of torsion, the spine is D12. And then again, the lateral process starts to grow, to increase until the D1, which D1 is again a vertebra with a lateral process on the horizontal plane. You see, here start to go back, and totally back. So here the lateral process is completely facing to the back. Here again is facing in the horizontal plane, and D1 again horizontal plane, and here the lateral process is facing to the front. So I'm showing this one because when we do spinal waves, when we do twisting, those are like reels for our movement. So we understand there are 3 kinds of movement. Now I will show you. And here there are cervical vertebrae, which are completely different. Because they have totally, well, not totally, I mean, they have another responsibility. They are much more stuck together. Here we have ribs, actually. They don't need to stay so much together. Here it's very important because cervical vertebrae are the vertebrae of control. So the first vertebra and the second vertebra are very special. As you can see, it's like a feminine vertebra and masculine vertebra, the direction vertebra and the balance of vertebra. And on top, we have the head. Okay, so let's make a pause. Let's make a step behind. And let's make some movement, maybe. Stop sharing. Let's make this movement. drinking water. This part is lumbar area, okay? From the iliac crest, here there is L4, the fourth lumbar vertebra here. Then the belly button, and then the diaphragm. So from diaphragm to pubic, the symphysis pubic, here we have lumbar area. And lumbar area actually do this one, two, 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 two. Yeah? So go really simple 4 dimension. There is also this movement, but actually all the torsion in the body are much more made by the hip joints and sclera and scapula, so the spine doesn't twist so much as we can think. Yeah. So when I walk, this kind of walking, ta, 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 if I walk like an African style, the center of torsion is here, this part. But if I twist just the spine, the center of torsion is D12, is here. So lumbar, they move like this way. Thoracic spine is like a cuneiform movement. Circumduction movement is called, which is this one. Yeah, it's a kind of spiraling because the rib cage is stuck together, so we cannot separate. There is not easy way to separate them. Yeah. Then cervical is special because on cervical we have like a speciality where we can flex, extend, make rotation without losing grades of movement, without losing angles. In the meaning that if I can do a flexion, then I can do rotation, and then I can do side bending without losing movement. There is not the same, for example, in those two areas. If I do a flexion, I cannot rotate so much. I cannot side bending so much. I can side bending a lot here, but if I side bending here, I cannot flex so much. Yeah, cervical area is not impingement of movement. Okay, so in this class, for me, it's important to understand this main point. Here we have one segment, second area, and third area. So this area, let's say that goes in this very simple and basic movement. This area start to understand the curve, let's say. And this area is 3-dimensional, can do S. Actually, if we see the spine, here we have like a kind of one big triangle on top of the second main triangle. And here we have Yes, is bigger triangle where the lateral process is from here to here to here to here to here, until the back, until coming directly here. So it's kind of opening up the space. And here on the cervical, we have like clepsydra. We have this area. So there is a center counter twisting here in the middle. That's in order to respect the vision, the eyes. What I said before, you see the lateral process, totally off from to the back, point to the back, and then slowly they are facing the horizontal plane. So it makes understand that every time in the thoracic spine that we make side bending, always there is a second movement, which is usually as a rotation, okay? Again, every time that into the body we want to make side bending, automatically there is a kind of rotation. Actually, we have to compensate it to make a pure movement. That's why, again, I said there is just one movement, internal rotation, and the three aspects of the three-dimensional layers is a kind of our limitation that we need to use them in order to respect our naturality, because we are limited. And with this limitation, we try to understand the God architecture. So we already talked about the vertical spine with those 7, 12, and 5 vertebrae and sacrum. We already talked about the rib cage, which is like a hermetic area, cavity. We already talked about scapulas, which is triangles, and we already talked about iliac bones, which also are like two triangles, and arms and legs as external limbs. And we appreciate this kind of geometry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with one line, tack, two horizontal line, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here is going to outside of the body because it's the expression again. Naturally, here is going into inner part of the body because it's where we are, it's the needed. Again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. So from this base, you can then develop a better knowledge and start to learn each bones, the name, the function, the physiology, the psychology, the energetic field, all about the bones. A big breath. I know that I'm talking so much. Maybe my English is not so good. And I recommend to you to put pause on this video and just rest, chill a bit, make a walk and drink water. Now we go with muscles aspect of the anatomy. So here, let's talk about the muscles. And let's go to share the screen. And here we are with, no, not here. With our model. So we start to add muscle from the superficial layer to the deeper layer. And I will do very easy. This is trapezius. Trapezius is a kind of muscle that is in charge of all the movement of the upper limbs from the scapula. So every time that we move the limbs from the scapula is active. Of course, is attached just to the scapula, not to the arms. So that's why it's important to understand that it's the movement of the arms that are supported by the scapulas. Then here we have latissimus dorsis, which is going to the inner arm. So also is responsible, as a responsibility on the movement of the arms. So every time that we move the arms from the sacrum to the base of our head, we have just two muscles representing this movement. Going on the arms, then here we have a deltoid, which is three area, anterior, medial, and posterior part. And deltoid is covering completely the shoulder joint. And then here we have the frontal area and the back area. The frontal area, here we have biceps. And the back area, we have triceps. The rest of forearm and hands basically is just made by flexion and extension. So the one who is extending the arm, let's say the muscle group extending the hand, all those muscles, they are attached on the lateral part. And when we talk about flexion, all those muscles are attached to the inner part. Yeah, so extension is something that runs on the lateral part, and flexion of the hand is something that is running on the middle area. On side of these two aspects, we have rotation, which is called pronation, and supination, which is made by these inner muscles. And that's it. About shoulders and arms, this is the basic knowledge that we need to know. Every time that we do this one, trapezius and latissimus dorsis, which is on the lateral side, but in the back area, they are involved. They are in alert, okay? Of course, deltoid area. And so we can understand all these movements of our arms. Then anterior part, biceps, posterior part, triceps. Forearm, if I do flexion, every flexion that I'm doing, like an Italian, the attach is into the inner part, because flexion is a kind of protection. Extension is a kind of expression of out gesture. So it's on the lateral part. That's it. The rest is pronation, which is in the middle of two bones. That's it, the basic of the anatomy of the arms, very easy. Then, on the anterior part, we have pectoralis, which is kind of working together with the triceps and latissimus dorsis, because actually the pectoralis comes until the same part of the latissimus dorsis. Do you remember where was coming here, the latissimus dorsis? So we can understand those three muscles as a big group to moving the arms. And that's enough for the scapula griddle. Then let's go to the legs. On the legs, we have three. Let me check if I'm okay. Here I am. Okay, everything's correct. On the legs, we have just three aspects. One, let's do it the other way. So on the legs, we have one group, which is quadriceps. Second group, which is hamstring. And third group, which is abductors. So to understand the legs, we can understand that we have just three muscles. The inner muscles, which adductors, the back muscles, which is hamstring, and the frontal lateral muscles, which is quads. Okay? Do you remember when we were talking about the foot and the tree plan of the space and how it distributes the weight? So here the same. And when we go to the leg, the lower leg, here we have tibialis, anterior tibialis. Here we have calves and soleus. And here inside, we have posterior tibialis and again, we can understand just three groups. That's why I keep saying that we are made by triangles, okay? There are many books that they still talking about four aspects of the leg because they include the gluteus to the legs, but the gluteus is a kind of abdominal walls, you know, like for me, gluteus and abs is a kind of triangle that is working together. Actually, it's the same with the ribs and sartorius. Yeah. So here we have the quadratus lumbaris, gluteus, abs, and here the ribs muscles. So let's see the anatomy. The medial muscle, rectus and lateral, and inside we have the intermedius vastus, and they are creating the big group of the quads. That's it. To the back, we have biceps with 2 heads. We have semitendinous and semimembranous. And they are representing together the hamstring. So this is the other group, the back part of your thigh. And here inside, we have 5 adductors muscles. The other one is really inside. I cannot appreciate it. So 5 muscles that are working for the inner part of our thigh. Okay. Here we have anterior tibialis, posterior tibialis, and calves. That's it. 3 muscles to remember. Okay. Then when we go to the foot, we can understand there is like flexion, extension as in the ends, and also internal rotation, external rotation, which is called innerward and outwards. So those kind of movements, let's make it easy. So flexion are these kind of muscles which are coming to the lateral part, basically, to the fibula. And those of the plantar fascia, the base of our foot, are coming to the calcaneus, and then together with fascia, they go on the back part. And more inside, there are the muscle for the fingers, from the toes, and they are attaching to the back part. So again, 3 muscles, and muscle for the flexion and muscle for the extension of what? Of the foot, the plantar foot, and of the fingers. I don't go to each muscles because it will be longer. I just want to focus on something special, which for me is very important, is the shape between this, not this one actually, but this one, maybe not this one, maybe I lost something. So fibularis lingua. So this is not what I want to show you. This neither, but gives us an idea how it's protect the foot. So let's go for this one, which is what I show you. And the other one, yeah, we can take this one. So I took just these two muscles to understand how the foot is holded like an hammock and cross it in the center of the foot. So from the middle line goes to the inner side of the foot and reach the second, the third one, the fourth, and actually the fifth, so bone. And the lateral muscle of fibula muscle, which is the direction, goes directly to the first toe. So this is important to me in order to understand how the transmission of each steps is made by the inner and the lateral force, which they are crossing and creating an X together to hold the whole foot. There are many other aspects to understand the anatomy. For example, the flex of the hallucis, the longal muscles, which is holding the astragalus, and many other speciality, which maybe will be too long now in the basic anatomy. So again, let's remember the important things now. Here we have three muscles: anterior lateral part, quads. Here we have inner muscles, abductors. Here we have back part of our thigh, which is made by hamstrings. Those three group of muscular segments of three muscular groups, sorry, we have to remember, okay? Here we have calf, anterior tibialis, and posterior tibialis, which is more inside. Also very important. And then flexion muscles, extension muscles, that's it. So go up with the gluteus. Gluteus is very simple. We have three kinds of gluteus. The bigger one, which is very important for the strength, for everything, it's very important to train this kind of muscles, because in our society, from the chair and kind of lifestyle, is very weak muscles. We have to train it. Then medium and small one. So those three muscles, they are actually covering all the bum that we have. So those muscles are the inner and out rotation, inner and external rotation of our hips. So that's why for me, I target the hip like with the pelvic area and not to the thigh, just to make the life easiest. So gluteus are a specific muscle group which is located here and is related to the pelvic floor, which is this area, which is like a floor basically, holding the pelvic organs. And the third aspect of the gluteus is tensor fasciae latae and maybe sartorius. Sartorius is special muscles, they're very long and is kind of internal rotation muscle. And this one as well, internal rotation muscle. As you can see, the internal rotation of the muscles is something very delicate into the body, because we have small group of muscles working for the internal rotation, 1, 2, and 3. And the external rotation is much bigger movement, so that's why we have a biggest muscle to do this movement. So internal and external rotation. Internal is lateral front, and external is middle back muscles. That's it. Now we go with abs. And abs are very simple because we have this one, which is transversus. Then we have rectus, which is rectus. Then we have obliquus, which is diagonal muscles, and the other diagonal muscles. So in this class, I think we just add two more things and that's it. The inner part. So diaphragma muscle is a very special muscle. Actually, it's not even a muscle. It's like a aponeurotic layers, which is stuck it together all the muscle chain. It's the only muscle that is covering and dividing the structure into upper body, lower body, and left and right. So when you see the section in the real anatomy, actually it's not like a muscle, it's a kind of fascia layer. It's very thin, much more than we can imagine. And is covering this part, this area. So it's two columns going here, 1 and 2. This other tail is going directly to the intestine, but it's not the argument of today. And also this foramen, these holes are for the physiology. So here we have the diaphragm. As you can see, the right part is a bit higher to the left part. And let's make it simple as we like in this class. So we are just drawing a house where we have born. So this is the upper part, diaphragm. This is the lower part, pelvic floor, and then the abs wall closing in this way. So this is the main entrance made by rectus. And inside of this house, where we have diaphragm, transversus, and pelvic floor, or perineum, also called, inside we have, maybe you already know, psoas. Psoas, that with this one is called iliopsoas, is very special muscle that is inner muscles, is very intimate muscles, but in the same time is very strong. It's very special in this aspect because usually the inner muscles are not so strong. They are much more precise. By the way, iliopsoas is both speciality, is very strong and same time is very precise. Is special for this one. And his partner is quadratus lumbarum, which is on the back area. And those together, they are making the pelvic tilt, the anterior pelvic tilt. So every time that the pelvis goes in this way into anterior pelvic tilt is because those are shorting, are contracting. The opposite movement, posterior pelvic tilt, is made by transversum and rectum, shortening this area, I mean. So abs, yeah? Let's keep it simple and again. Abs are basically a sun. So here we have the middle and we have rectus. Yeah, let's try. I'm trying to do a rectal line. We have rectus and transversum, which is the inner abs, which are kind of more precise movement muscles and better definition. And then here we have the strongest abs, which are the external oblique and the internal obliques. That's why I say it's a sun, okay? where in the center we have the belly button. This is to understand transversum, rectum, and obliques. One is external and one is internal. Easy to remember. And then here we go to the neck. Come on, guys, the last effort. We are on the neck, the control area. So platysma is a kind of very superficial muscles. And here, the most important muscles, well, if we can say this, is sternocleidomastoideo. Sternum because go to the sternum, cleido because go also to the clavicula, mastoideo because go to the mastoid bone, and actually it's called occipitomastoideus because comes from the occipus, mastoid temporalis, sternum, and claviculum. I mean, it's very important because it's holding those four structures in a very special way, and it's very strong. It's the muscle of the this part of our frontal neck. Is this the same muscles? Yeah. And as you can see, the movement of these muscles is rotation, is side bending, is flexion. I mean, all muscles, all movements are controlled by these muscles. So again, it's important muscle because we have all motion made by these muscles: lateral flexion, anterior flexion, extension, and rotation. Another important muscle that I need to explain to you are those. The scalenum. Scalenum muscles are like almost involuntary muscles because they work as for the breathing. They are working to lift up the first rib. So lifting up this rib, the cavity, pulmonary cavity, can open up the space, and that's why we are breathing. Actually, to breathe is an involuntary movement because it's the oxygen coming inside. And here we have three scalenum that are working on the first and second rib to put up the first ribs and to opening the space. There are different muscles in the respiratory group working for this, but those are the main one for sure. Then the rest of muscles that we need to add are paravertebralis, which basically are muscles to help the column for the verticality, to help the shape of the verticality of the column. And then we should talk of other secondary muscles, which they move the shoulder blade and the ribs and also the hips, but it's not the argument of today. The last things that I want to add you is that all our body is held by the head. From the head, all the muscle chain starts. So lateral temporalis muscles, and especially fascia, we can say that is holding all the lateral body. So this arch is holding all this lateral part. Then epicranial fascia, which is this. So this area is holding the face and the anterior part. And this area is holding the posterior chain. I'll do it better, just give me a second. So we can say that the posterior chain is held by occiput. And let's say from this part, temporomandibular area, we are holding the inner fascia. So internal organs are holding from the mandibular. Okay? So let's make it in a better way, because this is very easy way to understand the body. So again, our head is holding all the body. So temporomandibular fascia is holding lungs, heart, pericardium, spleen, liver, stomach, all internal organs. Tac. Ah, no, maybe I should do it like this one. Sorry. Tac, tac, tac. Okay. So this area is holding internal organs. Tac. Then lateral temporalis fascia arch is holding the lateral, so arms, and also lateral ribs, hip, and fibula, and tac, and all this area. Done. Yeah. And back part is holded by occiput. Tac. And all this area. Yeah. This part also is held by lateral fascia. Also this part. Yeah. Actually, you can compare it also the meridians of Chinese medicine. They run more or less in the same way. There are many similarities to the biomechanical, to the fascia, and to the energetic field. So let's make resume of what we just said. So again, we have talked about joints and now muscles. We have deltoids, biceps, triceps, forearm muscles, which is made by flexion, extension, and pronation. Remember, flexion is protection. So it's coming to inner part. Extension coming to external part. That's it. Then scapula, they moves in forward direction and also hugging and opening. So all around the scapula, we didn't see the details, but there are some kind of elevator of scapula, rhomboid, which is going together, supraspinosus, infraspinosus, subscapularis. So there are all muscles that are around this muscle group around the scapula. Then we went to the pelvic girdle. So here we have gluteus and internal rotation muscles. So fascia latae, tensor fascia latae, sartorius, and mid muscles. So we can do this one. Inner and out, inner and out. Bigger one because external rotation is always much bigger than internal rotation. So smallest muscles are for internal rotation, biggest muscles for external rotation, and also, of course, extension and flexion. Then on the legs, we have one group, frontal lateral group, another group which is middle, and the other group which is the back part. Also here we have anterolateral, anteromedial, and back part. And foot is flexion, extension, and rotation. Then we have abs, which is a sun. On top, we have pectoralis, big pectoralis, small pectoralis, which is helping our hands. Then on the back, we have trapezius and latissimus dorsis, which is the biggest muscles. They are the biggest muscles of our back. And then we have on the cervical area, sternocleidomastoideo, which is this one, and scalenus, which are the most important, and other small muscles from the tracheas, from the thyroid, the hyoides bones, which maybe we can discuss in another class. And paravertebral muscles, which basically they do this one. When you are here on your phone, just activate them, and just straighten your spine, which are muscles very specific for the straight of the spine. Then inside we have diaphragm, pelvic floor, psoas, and quadrado-lumbaris. As we can understand a house, so the top part of the house, the bottom part of the house, lateral part, which is transversus of the abdominis, and we can see the column of the house, which is quadrado-lumbaris and psoas. And this is how we can sculpt the body and understand the body from very easy architecture. And then we can go on the head. And we understand that we are here and you say, straight your spine, you grow from the head. So we are holding from our head and all the muscle chain are holding from the head. So posterior chain, lateral chain, and interior organ chain. This is the base anatomy. Hopefully, we will go on with different sections of more specific joints and muscles explain different function. For example, eating, chewing, watching, the size, gesticulating, breathing, and that's it. Hope that you enjoyed, and please give me share me some comments and some also private message so I can understand which part is better understood and which part is a bit need to be modified, and we will grow together. Thanks so much for enjoying the anatomy, which is not just mine, it's also yours and for all the body. I hope that this argument will help us to reduce all kind of judgment, because we understand that behind our skin, we all have the same blood. Thanks.